Big breaking news coming in at this point of time on prime time breaking. Trump has opened up a new tariff tirade against India, threatened to substantially increase tariffs because India continues to purchase oil from Russia and in turn sells it in open market for big profits. That's a big development coming in. Rishabh is live with us. Rishabh, this is a massive statement that Donald Trump has posted on social media. He appears to be pretty much dependent, or at least clearly, in the mode to put in more tariffs on India.
Well, if we talk about, this statement, Madhav, this is by far the strongest statement that has come in from New Delhi when it comes to the tariff rhetoric that is coming in from Washington, and especially the President of the United States, Donald Trump. In a statement that has come in from the, MEA spokesperson, Randhir Jaiswal, India has shown mirror to not only United States, but also Europe. Reminds us of the statement that, once the External Affairs Minister made, that India purchases oil from Russia in a quarter the amount that Europe purchases in a fortnight. And now India very categorically said that these countries criticizing India for purchase of Russian oil is something.
Yes, let's quickly read out that statement. Rishabh, one by one, let's go to that statement first. This is a statement that India has issued. It's an immediate reaction to Trump's fresh tariff threat. MEA in its statement has said that it was in fact US which encouraged India to purchase oil from Russia when the Ukraine conflict began. And that's a big statement coming in, and not just US but EU as well. Rishabh, this is very significant because one of the big buyers of the oil that India imports from Russia and then processes is the United States, amongst other countries.
Well, definitely, Malav. Very clearly, India has put forward both US and EU in front of mirror. India has very categorically said that it was because the legacy suppliers, their supply was diverted to Europe, that India had to turn to Russia for the major oil imports during 2020 to 2023, and that has continued since then. Apart from that, India also suggests that it was United States that was very happy and actually encouraged India's import from Russia to have a global balance of energy supply. And not only that, the crude oil that India is purchasing from Russia is being distilled here in India and being sold, and Europe is ready to buy that oil as well. US is buying that oil as well. Very categorically,
okay.
India.
Stay with us, Rishabh. We have Pathikrit Pain, strategic affairs expert. Pathikrit Pain, perhaps we've not seen this kind of rhetoric at this kind of a nadir, perhaps between US and India, with Trump no less leading as far as US is concerned, and India in its statement saying that India has been targeted by US and EU for importing oil from Russia after the commencement of the Ukraine conflict, and India began importing from Russia because traditional supplies were diverted to Europe after the outbreak of the conflict. The US at that time actively encouraged such imports by India for strengthening global energy market stability. Indian imports are meant to ensure predictable and affordable energy cost to Indian consumer, necessity compelled by global market situation, revealing that very nations criticizing India are themselves indulging in trade with Russia. Unlike our case, such trade is not even a vital national compulsion. And they go on to detail what the EU has done. Pathikrit, this is very, very significant, the kind of statements that we're seeing come out.
Well, first and foremost, the reason why India was exporting to Europe is because of the provisions and the clauses created by the European Union, in which even if the Russian oil is supplied via a third party, then European Union was expected and was supposed to buy it. Europeans created that provision for themselves because they knew that alternate routes and the supply was not enough to fulfill the requirement. Secondly, the reason why India was importing from Russia in spite of the problems is because United States itself has imposed sanctions on many other such suppliers, and we were told in the past not to buy it from Iran because of the sanctions on Iran. They have imposed sanctions on Venezuela, they have imposed sanctions on Iran, they have imposed sanctions on many other countries, the whole of Middle Eastern turmoil, and in spite of all these things, we have ensured stability by importing, or not only from Russia, but exporting it to the willing countries of Europe. Now, to blame us for the conflict, I mean, it's bizarre, because I think there's a desperation on the part of Trump administration, because India has made it very clear we are not going to open up the dairy sector, the poultry sector, or the agriculture sector. That is the desperation he is showing. Now, if America is genuinely interested in reducing the conflict or ending the conflict or stopping the killing of the Ukrainians, all that Trump needs to do is to make it clear and make a statement that NATO has no interest in expanding into Ukraine. And beyond that, the war will end tomorrow. You know, in spite of everything what is happening, Trump goes and, have a mineral deal in Ukraine, which means he is capitalizing on the plight of the poor Ukrainians, saying that I would give you weapons only if you allow me to access your critical minerals. Now, is that not exploitation? They are blaming us for the death of the Ukrainians. How many wars America has financed since 1945? How many people they have killed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and how many people are still being killed in Syria by a regime which is supported by United States and which is nothing but a former terrorist organization? Al-Jolani was a designated terrorist. So what are they talking about? I think the problem is this: India is not toeing to their lines. We are no more willing to accept it. We have good relations with United States. We respect United States as a country. They are our strategic partner. But I think Trump as president should realize that respect would only remain if he, hold his horses. Making bizarre statements. I think sometimes these statements are only being made to make Truth Social as a social media platform far more popular. It gains him great traction. But these statements are creating major problems for the relationship. Even now, let me give you an information. European Union is importing gas and oil from Russia and paying through cryptocurrencies.
Absolutely.
Which are backed by Kremlin.
So I'm just going to read out that part is also mentioned, Pathikrit, in the statement. They say that EU in 2024 had a bilateral trade of euro 67.5 billion in goods with Russia. In addition, they had trade in services estimated at euro 17.2 billion in 2023. This is significantly more than India's total trade with Russia that year, or subsequently, European imports of LNG in 2024 reached a record 16.5 million tons, surpassing the last record of 15.21 million tons in 2022. Europe-Russia trade includes not just energy, but also fertilizers, mining products, chemicals, iron and steel and machinery and transport equipment. Whereas the US is concerned, it continues to import from Russia uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear industry, palladium for its EV industry, fertilizers as well as chemicals. In this background, targeting of India is unjustified and unreasonable. Like any major economy, India will take all necessary measures to safeguard its national interests and economic security. So very strong words being used, and the imports of both EU and US have been cited in this statement, Pathikrit.
Yes, and let me put it also this way: the amount of gas and oil we buy probably in a month, that is exactly what European Union buys in one afternoon. And secondly, imagine this is like weaponization of the tariff, which is almost like akin to imposing sanctions on India. Now, this shows the level of pressure that United States have been consistently putting on other countries, whoever does not go to their line. I mean, today we say that we are in a post-colonial era. Is this the way you treat your strategic partner? They call us strategic partner in that since 2008 to 2008, India has bought weapon systems more than $28 billion. Even last year, Modi government ordered 31 MQ-9B Reaper, drones. We are almost on the verge of buying probably more C-17 and PHI Poseidon planes from them. That is weapons, defense planes, aircraft, and yet this is the way Trump treats us. Now, in that case, India has very little option but to do whatever is necessary for the people of India. Because let me put it this way: India per capita income is $2,800. It is far less than the per capita income in Europe or United States. For a country of 150 crore people, even if there is an increase in the price of oil by $1, it has a tremendous impact on the economy of our country. What are we supposed to do? The disruptions in the supply chain are so profound. The number of countries on which sanctions have been imposed are so profound that we are left with no option but to buy from Russia. And secondly, we were selling it to Europe because the Europeans were willing to buy from us and were pleading with us to sell it, because it becomes a third-party product and then the sanctions do not apply. It doesn't mean that India's economy runs on the oil that we sell to the Europeans. Tomorrow, if we stop it, it doesn't impact our $4 trillion economy at all. But let me put it this: United States, it's trying to contain the Indian economy. They do not want us to go to a level where we will be too big to be disturbed. So our journey from $4 trillion to the $10 trillion mark you will witness several such impediments.
Okay, Pathikrit, thanks so much for joining us. Let's quickly look at this statement. This is the statement that's been put out by the MEA talking about India being targeted. They're also talking about India's exports meant to ensure predictable and affordable energy costs to the Indian consumer. Also talking about the global market situation over here and saying that the very nations that are criticizing India are themselves indulging in trade with Russia. Unlike our case, such trade is not even a vital national compulsion. They're talking about EU's trade as far as bilateral trade in goods is concerned. They're talking about LNG in 2024, which is much more than India's total trade with Russia. Europe-Russia trade includes energy, but also fertilizers, mining products, chemicals, iron and steel and machinery. US is concerned, it continues to import from Russia uranium, hexafluoride for its nuclear industry, palladium for its EV industry, fertilizers as well as chemicals. Very, very clear statement being given over here. Kushal Mehra also joins us. Kushal Mehra, finally the Indian government has made its position very clear as far as this particular statement is concerned, and it is directly contradictory to what President Trump has stated. Many would say that this perhaps, in no unambiguous terms, while India has, cited many very often, we've seen the Commerce Minister's statement in Parliament, etc., in no unambiguous terms, citing the hypocrisy of the very countries that are criticizing India for doing trade with Russia.
Yeah, I think the response by the MEA is very balanced and fact-based. India should not take the bait, in my opinion, from President Donald Trump. We should just keep on negotiating with the Americans behind the scenes. Donald Trump wants a very ugly public spat, which is what he needs to rally his base, which is the MAGA base. The MAGA base is not very happy about, the entire Epstein file saga, and Donald Trump always needs some storyline to divert. I think India should not take the bait. I really appreciate the response by the Ministry of External Affairs. I think this is a balanced response, and we should just go on reasonably negotiating. And if America increases the tariffs, I think America needs to realize that American big tech needs the Indian market of 1.4 billion people because they don't have China, remember. So India does have a very major card up its sleeve where people forget that, yes, American big tech might be registered in Ireland. It's still an American big tech. And India always has that card up its sleeve where it can also impose those costs on all American big tech. And whatever costs are imposed on Indian companies can be set off like that.
Right. That's very significant because it does appear from the tone and tenor of President Trump's statement that at least before the MEA statement came in, I don't know what's going to be the response once this statement, of course, has now come out in the public domain, what US will have to say or President Trump will have to say now. But in case it does come to this eventuality of imposing a larger penalty, and we don't know to what extent that penalty will be, but it's much higher than what has been imposed on other Asian nations. And as our previous speaker was stating, this is also a time when India is kind of coming into its own as far as its own commerce industry is concerned, the size of its economy likely to become the third largest in the world. At a time like this, perhaps other countries not very happy with India's growth at the high tables?
It could be that, but I just think there is no such grand plan when it comes to Donald Trump and his posts on Truth Social. I think we should not try to read too much into what Mr. Trump says on Truth Social. It's a bunch of riffraff which is always created. A couple of days ago, Mr. Trump was saying that, and there was that report, alleged report from Reuters based on sources that, we have stopped buying oil. Then Mr. Trump says he said he's bought oil. Then everybody was criticizing why have we stopped buying oil from Russia. Now Mr. Trump says why are we buying oil from Russia? So it's a classic.
Absolutely, lot of speaking in many tongues at the same time. Whether there's any credibility attached with these comments, well, certainly for the last several months we've known the number of flip-flops or a number of issues that has been done. Kushal Mehra, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us and breaking that down for our viewers. With that, it's a wrap on the NewsHour 10 agenda. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.